Men of Reddit, what advice from the older generation changed your life for the better? Been hanging around my grandparents lately, had some advice given to me right after leaving college from my grandfather. When you start to work hard for 6 months. After that they won't bother you and your job will be extremely easy and you won't have to do much. This turned out to be extremely good advice because the initial 6 months they thought I was very competent. I start cruising, and now I'm doing less work, promoted a few times, raises consistently, and management tends to leave me good advice. Did you get from your grandparents or from the older generation in general?
It's okay to make mistakes, but build the courage to accept that it's a mistake and move forward from.
Buy nice, not twice.
Only judge someone based off what you know about them personally, never what other people say about them.
When you weigh the good and the bad, remember it's not 1-to-1. One good reason can nullify 5 bad ones, and 1 bad can nullify 5 good reasons. Learn how to weigh them instead of count them. Thanks, Uncle.
If it's worth doing, it's worth doing right.
Your first loss is your best loss. I'm not sure if best was the exact wording, but that's basically the gist of a quote that my great-grandfather, never met the guy, told my grandmother when she first met him. He was a successful businessman and one of the most rich people in the state of Iowa back in the day. Basically, the concept was that if you owned a shop, and had an item on your shelf that was not selling, you are better off losing it/selling at a loss than you are keeping it on your shelf and hoping it would eventually sell. The potential earnings from that shelf space being used to display other goods that will actually sell well is worth far more than the initial investment you made on the item that is not selling very well.
75% of the things that kept me up at night with worry never even my dad and my kid's grandparent.
When I was working my first job at 16, a local mom-and-pop pizza place, an old man came in and got a salad from the salad bar. Dude was really jovial and talkative, and I don't remember what prompted him to say it, but he said, "Always make sure to try everything twice." The cook may have made it wrong the first set. It also applied to stuff other than food. That was almost 2 decades ago now, and I still remember it pretty often. And always make sure to try things I don't like multiple times just to see, and a lot of the yup. I end up liking a lot more stuff. Pretty good advice, random old man.
My dad didn't tell me so much as show me. He created a B team from my little league team because those of us who were not so good never played. He said there were 2 rules: everybody plays, and everybody has fun. At age 59 I still have a baseball from that season, and I was the manager of a computer complex for NASA. He knew the names of everyone in the building, no matter where. They taught me by example that every person, everyone, has worth and deserves respect.
Honesty is the key. The less you lie, the less you have to remember.
Unless it's a house, a car, or essential repairs to either. If you can't afford to pay cash for it, you don't need it. My grandfather told me that when I was 19, and it's kept me debt-free, aside from a mortgage and a car loan, my entire life.
Invest in yourself early.
My dad would remind me of these all the time in my days. Everyone in the world is struggling with something. You are only special to certain people, not everyone. You are not the only one with problems, and your problems are not exclusive to you. And only you can fix your problems, only you can make you happy. Don't rely on others for your happiness, it's not their responsibility. Only get into a relationship once you have figured out how to make yourself happy. Everyone is raised differently, and you might not be everyone's cup of tea, so be understanding and empathetic when someone else is not your cup of tea.
Your grandpa quote reminded me of what Harvey Specter said to Mike Ross, early in the TV series Suits. "When I got here, I dominated. They thought I worked 100 hours a day. Now, no matter what time I get in, no one questions my ability to get the job done. Get it through your head, first impressions last. If you start behind the 8 ball, you'll never get in of the matter, as first impressions are very important. Work long and hard hours your first 6 months, 1 year, then once you've made your first impression, then you can cruise."
Complaining is one of the ego's favorite strategies for strengthening.
Protect your body. Wear the safety you should. You marry her, look at her family as a whole. It's a package. Your garbage man, mechanic, doctor, or smarter. Not can do it right the first time, or do it the again and again. Well, it's your regular but more, but I'm old now and forget too many I heard, so now I'm old and spouting them.
Everyone has their own way of going nuts. My great uncle told me this about 20 years ago. I was an angry, bitter young man. Somehow, that touched a nerve and led me down a path of being less judgmental and more compassionate.
If she likes you, you'll know it. If she doesn't like you, you'll be confused.
Work out regularly.
My father was not generally a font of wisdom, but he did pass down this gem. Keep an open mind, but not so open that your brain falls out.
My dad had a lot of great advice, most of which I didn't place much stock in until I got much older. I'll just list a few that I didn't follow until it blew up in my face. Live below your means. If you make $1,000, live like you make. A pretty face can hide a heart. The right woman will add to your life, not take from it. Keep that in mind when chasing women. Take care of yourself, your wife, your kids. In that order. A lot of people lie, and for no reason other than there. Don't break your back helping somebody who won't lift a finger to help. The world owes you nothing. It's too big and has too much going on to care about.
If I was in your shoes, I'd be back overseas doing coke and partying for another few years. You still have plenty of time to. Was doing an internship with a very successful man who through luck and determination didn't really start life until his mid to late 30s. It was nice to know that I wasn't necessarily because I didn't have my entire life plan set up yet.
When I was 19, a World War II vet and survivor of Okinawa came up to me at a bowling alley and said, "You young fellas look smart, here's some advice. If you marry a woman with small hands. It'll make your look."
Don't listen to the majority of people. The majority of people is.
The universe doesn't owe you a beautiful.
Best piece of advice that my grandfather ever gave me: marry the right. The wrong person is catastrophic to your health and finances. It's even worse if you have children with the wrong person.
Older boss, I know you have problems right now, we all do, but is losing your job going to make them better or worse? That was like a bolt of lightning for me.
Two things are infinite: the universe and human stupidity, and I'm not sure about the Albert Einstein.
Judge a man by the type of person he is, nothing else, Dad.
My dad was born in the middle of the Great Depression. Through following his advice, I was able to retire at 54 instead of 65. His main advice was, no credit cards, never. It is too easy to buy now and pay later. With interest you could buy it. Take on a car loan, save money like you were making a car payment, so when you need to replace it you will have the cash on hand that you earned interest on instead of having to pay interest on. It makes a poor man rich. Discontentment makes a rich man poor. You can waste a fortune chasing things to make you happy. Be happy with what you have.
Never buy a pair of cheap shoes or a cheap bed. You spend a third of your life sleeping and a third working. Grandpa said you're on your feet 8 hours a day. Make sure your feet don't hurt. The same for bed. 1/3 of your life. Make sure you get a good night's rest.
1. Bitching is for women and enlisted men. Leaders never don't argue with people. They bring you down to their level and win on. This from my. The world is full of censors, and they all want the same thing: for you to see the world the same way they do. Or at least to shut up about whatever you see people have to do a lot of to figure out what they really only borrow money to make. Meaning, take out loans for a business or an education that you expect a return on. But not for anything. Anyone who says something mean about you, they're usually, this from my. Don't love anything that can't love you.
This one is key. I learned it from an older co-worker when I was stressing out about I'd done.
My dad always said there's not a successful person in the world that hasn't failed at something. What makes or breaks you is what you do after you fail. Some people give up and some people use it as a learning opportunity to correct their mistakes and become better because of them. I later found that this is one of Marcus Aurelius' most widely quoted teachings from Meditations. What stands in the way become the. It means that an obstacle in your path can become the path to something better, or it can remain an obstacle and stop progress in its tracks, depending on the response of the person who encounters it.
The only exception to this I can think of are tools. My uncle is like Adam Savage type builder guy with a giant workshop and a million tools. He always told me buy the cheapest tools you can find. If you use it enough to break it, then buy the best one you can. That's why I have Milwaukee drill bits and Harbor Freight drill. BTW, that HF cordless drill is going on 10 years now.
Buy once, cry once.
As my Russian wife says, I'm not rich enough to buy cheap things.
Be curious, not judgmental.
If I trust someone and they say that so-and-so is a bad person/trouble, I will definitely listen to them. The office gossip? Yeah, I would apply a healthy dose of skepticism. Greater than learn how to weigh them instead of count them. That's really nice.
My version was, if you don't have time to do it right, you better have the time to do it again.
I had the opposite advice and both are true. If it's worth learning, it's worth at it.
Avoiding sunk cost fallacy.
That goes along with what my grandpa said. He was a farmer/rancher born in the Great Depression. If she, a mama cow, ain't making money, get rid of every 2 mama cows you get rid of as 3 heifers you can.